I am a descendant of Jupiter Gilliard, born 1812 as a slave in South Carolina. Jupiter Gilliard married Rena. They had two sons, one named Jupiter Jr. and one named London. London married Affie. Affie and London had a daughter by the name of Florine. Florine married Horace Johnson. They ended up having two daughters, one named Affie, one named Ophelia, two sons named Horace Jr. and James, which we affectionately call JW. Now, Affie Bell decides to marry Arthur Vickers. She dies giving birth to my mother, Affie Bell. So my Nana, or Ophelia, took over the family tree for the women's side of the family. Affie Bell marries Ulysses Raiford, and I am their son. In 1874, Jupiter Gilliard, however, spent $9 in taxes on 476 acres of land. Now, that land wasn't unfertile. It had majestic oak trees, pine trees, and a place that I still affectionately call where the wild things grow, sweet and so delicious. Muscadine vines still growing up. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Blackberry patch underneath, and southern huckleberries. Some of y'all are thinking, what are southern huckleberries, right? Think about the original cultivar of a blueberry, still sweet and astringent. I grew up in that area, loved it. But that wasn't the only thing this land was. It wasn't just about farming. It was also the first school for people of color, or black folks, within a 20-mile radius of where I live. Now, it was specifically put on the farm so that those children that traveled those 20 miles, you know, that saying of I had to walk up the hill and it took me forever, this is reality, okay? This actually happened. And so this food was used for those children also. And I can remember a time when I was my children's age growing up, going to that house and being inside that what is now a guest house, no longer a schoolhouse, a one-bedroom or one-room schoolhouse. And growing up actually watching my great-grandmother, Florine, while I'm on the porch, you know, cleaning field peas with her, and looking out and watching my Uncle Horace plant everything from sweet corn to watermelon to crookneck squash, you name it, it was planted, to include sugarcane. I can also remember the time of going out in the field and like breaking the sugarcane and chewing on it and standing there with him and him taking the sugarcane and going, we're gonna press all this, boy. Don't eat up all the profits. And so we take that cane and we push it through. Now that sugarcane press is still on our property. It was brought to that property in 1919 and was given as a gift to Florine and Horace as a wedding present for them to carry on the family legacy of growing cane. So now let's fast forward a little bit, right? I'm a child of the late 60s, early 70s, grew up in Brunswick, Georgia, and I grew up during a time that is not the South that we're living in right now. So what was said earlier about me not wanting to stay in the South is reality for me. I wanted to leave. I wanted to get as far away as possible. And when I thought about it, I said, you know, I love to cook. And I said, you know, I want to go to cook. I'm going to go to culinary school when I graduate from high school. However, my father, Ulysses, was a baker by trade from the 50s and 60s. And he had never seen anyone that looked like me become an executive chef of any shape, form, or fashion. So he said, there's a lot of things you can do, boy, but cooking ain't one of them. So I decided I'd join the military. Went in the military for 10 years. I've lived a little bit of everywhere in the world. One of the interesting things that happened is everywhere I went, people go, where are you from? And I go, oh, I'm from Georgia. And they was like, man, I haven't had a good home-cooked meal in I don't know how long. And I used to always think to myself, what does Georgia have to do with a home-cooked meal? It didn't equate to me initially. So what I started doing was people would say that, and I'm like, oh, I know how to make biscuits. Yeah, I make collard greens. Barbecue, you name it, I can do it. And I started cooking, not as a skill set in the military, just cooking in general. Well, 10 years later, I decided to get out. I'm going to Howard University to be a physical therapist. And guess what happens? I start throwing parties. I'm a 28-year-old freshman in college throwing 28-year-old freshman parties, and all of them had food and lots of alcohol. All of them did, right? Because we also did muscadine wine, so I figured we'd keep it flowing. From that, though, I leave the military, I go to culinary school, I end up going to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. Because of that, I had the amazing chance to work in everything from Las Vegas to being the executive chef at the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. While there, my sister and I, around 2010, got a phone call from our family saying, "Baby, can you come to this family reunion you ain't been at in a long time?" That was my Nana. And I said, "Yes, Nana, we'll come." And she says, "Okay, come on." So we come, and when we get there, my sister and I are greeted by not only my Nana, but also my mother and my aunt. And for years, every once in a while, we get this phone call that was like, "Baby, what are we going to do with all this land?" And I would say, "Y'all should go back to farming it because that's what y'all know how to do." Now, what happened on this hot summer day in 2010? I feel like I was on a filming of Punk'd because my Nana looked over at me, "Baby, what are we going to do with all this land?" And I look over at my sister, I look back at my Nana, and I said, "Nana, we should go back to farming it." And they reach underneath the table and give Dee, my sister, and I 28 acres of land, and my Nana says, "Baby, y'all better get back to farming." So here I go. Here's how that path kind of got started. I ended up going to the UC Santa Cruz, the Center for Agroecology and Sustainable Food Systems. I'm learning about sustainability, I'm learning about seeds, I'm learning about farming. I'm like, okay, I got this thing. I'm gonna come back to the South. Okay, I can do this. It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna get my hands in the soil. I already know how to cook. This can work. For me, this can work. And what I do is I decided I'm gonna plant an orchard. 100 trees. Nana, I'm gonna plant this orchard because I just learned that a man does not plant an orchard for himself, he plants an orchard for his children's children. I want to do that. So I plant those 100 trees, I run in the house, "Nana, I need you to come out here and look at these trees." Now I done dug the perfect hole, right? Perfect amount of compost, perfect amount of mulch, perfect amount of water. This thing is perfect, 100 trees. Nana comes out with her little cane that she used to use as a broken broomstick, and she walks over and she goes, "What that is right there?" I said, "Oh, it's a pomegranate tree." And she goes, "What that is right there?" "Oh, that's an anjo pear tree." She goes, "What that is right there?" I said, "A fig tree." She goes, "Oh, let me know when that one gets big." So I say to myself, what is really going on with this, right? And then I find out that my 100 trees die. So the first thing I think to myself, oh goodness, Nana put a hex on everything. So I walk in the house and I go, "Nana," I was like, "I don't know what happened, but the trees, I don't have any." And she goes, "Baby, sit down for a second, I got something for you." And she hands me a letter. In that letter, written in 1945, was a conversation between her and my great-grandmother talking about what they had taken to market and what they were getting ready to plant. Good Lord, I have Gilliard Farms, Farmer's Almanac in my hand. And then guess what? I started thinking about these roses that my Nana had planted around the farm and how sweet smelling they were. And I said, "Nana, why did you plant those roses?" She said, "Because I didn't want it to just look like a farm. It needs to look pretty. Reds and pinks and oranges, that's the way it's supposed to look." And so I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense." So we keep the roses going, and as we're walking around the house and I'm still talking to her, she picks up another letter and goes, "Here you go, baby." And I read the other letter, and I'm like, oh my God, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. They have actually unintentionally, but intentionally, figured out where my legacy was, where it was coming from. They've written it all down for me. I can follow it. That was very intentional. I had no idea that that is what they were going to do. And so not only do I have those letters, I also have the schoolhouse that we're in. I also have all of the memories that I have from being with my great-grandmother and my uncle and my grandmother and my mother, which is amazing. I am a descendant of Jupiter Gilliard, Rena, Affie Bell, Florine, Euless Lee Raiford. I, Matthew Raiford, am the father of Chanel, Kayla, Kenton, Corvin, Kyra, Evan Amir, and Chloe. 7 deep, 7 generations. I am Gullah Geechee. What are you going to be intentional about?